and welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma and today we have another episode of What's Proppin'. Don't mind me, just watch it. So I've always been super curious about which propagation method is the best. There's so many different ways. I mean, I managed to sort out 7 for this experiment, but I basically just wanted to see what worked the best and kind of try and do a controlled experiment. There's loads of things that could have happened. Like, it's not a controlled experiment, it's just me trying it one time. So like, do the best I can. I'm not a scientist. In early April, I think it was the 9th of April, I put 7 golden pothos middle cuttings. So cuttings that didn't have any growth points on them. They were all like as equal as possible with approximately the same size leaves to try and make it as fair as possible. I did my best. But I put each of them in a different sort of substrate to try and propagate in. I did have footage of this, but it's just got lost in the ether. It may have gotten deleted somewhere along the lines, so sorry, but we can just talk about it. I put one straight into soil, I put one in sphagnum moss, one in trusty old water in a clear glass, one in trusty old water in a dark glass, because I've heard it makes a difference, one in perlite with water at the bottom, one in pond with water at the bottom, and one in LECA with water at the bottom. So once I put them all into their respective substrates, I put them on this tray and I put them all on top of my IKEA cabinet. I figured that was a good place where they get like medium, sometimes bright indirect light, and it's all fairly even in light, so I wouldn't have to worry about some of them getting more light than others. And also, a grow light goes on for like 7 hours a day, so they're getting quite a lot of regular light up there, which is really good. And it's all even Stevens, they're all getting about the same amount. And then I waited. I basically just left them alone. I topped up the water here and there. I tried to water the soil and sphagnum as regularly as I could pay attention to. Basically, if I was watering something else on the top, I'd end up watering these as well, just to make sure they stayed quite moist. And then the water I tried to keep at a fairly even level for the rest of them so that they had the best chance of success. But obviously I am a human and there's error in there, and sometimes I let some get drier than they needed to be and blah blah blah. But I did my best. That's all I can do. So I tried. About a month in, so like early May time, pretty much all of the cuttings had some sort of root system in there. They were all fairly even in length. Some were a little bit smaller than others, but I mean, that could be put down to like anything, so I think the difference was a bit negligible. But all of them had some sort of roots, which is great. Some of them also even had growth points forming, which was crazy. I think it was the 2 in water, with the one in dark glass being slightly bigger, just ever so slightly. And then the one in perlite and the one in pond, they all had growth points on them. The ones in sphagnum, soil, and LECA didn't. So it is now July. It has been like 3 and a bit months since I started this whole experiment. Of the secondary leaves, so the one in soil actually has the biggest second leaf, which is pretty interesting, and I feel like that's because it has nutrients out of all of them. Most of the other substrates don't have nutrients in them. I think except for pond, none of them have any nutrients. So I think it makes sense that the soil secondary leaf is bigger than the rest. But that one did take quite a lot longer than the rest of them. I think I struggle personally to keep soil moist enough for propagation. I think you have to be quite on top of it, which I'm a bit of a lazy plant parent. I love my plants and I take a lot of care of them, but I don't want to be fawning over them all the time. I think I struggled a bit to keep it as moist as it might have wanted it to be, but I mean, it's worked, so it doesn't matter. And 3 of these cuttings actually has a 3rd leaf as well, which is super duper exciting. But I figured now would be a great time to have a look at the roots and see how they're actually all doing root-wise, so we can make a judgment about who ranked the best. So this was the one in soil, obviously. You can see it's got a fairly established root system in there. Overall, it looks pretty healthy. It does have quite a big new leaf. So this leaf was from the original cutting and this was the new leaf. They're fairly similar in size, which is awesome. And I do think it's because of the nutrients, but the roots seem really healthy. And what I do like about this is they are soil roots. I don't have to worry about now transferring this to soil, which is something that I'm always afraid of when it comes to propagation, especially water propagation. The transition to soil can be a bit difficult sometimes. So I am quite happy with this as a propagation method. I know some people swear by putting it straight in soil. It's just never been like for me, but maybe I'll have to give it more of a go. I never really gave it like a proper good try. So I might try this again in the future. Pretty happy with that one. So next up we have the cutting in Sphagnum. The leaves are pretty similar in size. This was the original leaf and then this is the new one. So I mean, that's all you can ask for really. Let's have a look at the roots. In the first episode of What's Propping, you probably saw that a lot of the things I had were rooting in moss. I've been really enjoying moss propagation lately, and I think that's just because it's kind of like an intermediate between water and soil. So I feel like the roots that grow in tend to be more soily roots, and it's not as big of a harsh transition going from the propagation medium into soil if that's what you wanted to do. But the roots on this one are also pretty good. They seem very healthy in there. One thing I did struggle a little bit with the sphagnum is making sure it stayed wet. There were some times when I let it dry out quite a lot, which I shouldn't do, but I did. Next up, we have water in the clear glass. Oh my goodness. Look how long that root is. It's just like one big main root that's super long, and it's got some like secondary roots coming off of it as well. So that is a happy root. And you can see this is one of the cuttings that has a third leaf on it. This is the original leaf. This is the second leaf, which is, it's a bit smaller. And then the third leaf, which is smaller again. I think that is probably because it's not getting any nutrients in the water, which does make sense. But this root is just a bit mental. It is so freaking long. Water propagation is how I pretty much always used to propagate, but I have often struggled transitioning into soil from that. I find if I'm water propagating, I'll now go to pond just because it feels like an easier transition. The roots don't have to like go through as much stress, which makes sense. I don't need to keep the soil quite as moist, which is good because I'm not good at that. I'm much more of an underwater than an overwaterer. But yeah, I'm just amazed at how long this root is. Then we have dark glass in water. So this one also has quite a long set of roots, not quite as long as the clear glass ones. And there's not many like branching out roots from it, but it's pretty long roots as well. I don't think there's that much of a difference between the clear glass and the dark glass. I know some people swear by dark glass as being better because the roots are not meant to be getting light, but to be honest, I don't notice that much of a difference. This was the original leaf, this was the new leaf, and then again we have another baby new leaf. This cutting is pretty much exactly the same as the one in the clear glass. I honestly wouldn't even say that there's much difference between them. So if you want to root in clear glass, root in clear glass, because seeing the roots is easier when the glass is clear. Next we have Perlite. You can see some incredible roots going on there and there, which is awesome. And this one also has that third leaf. Let's pull it out to see how it's doing. So there are some pretty banging roots on there. Like, I think those are some really healthy roots. They're kind of similar in size to the ones that were just in water. A little bit shorter, but still quite long. But you can see there's so many more roots branching out from it, which is awesome. I don't know the science behind it, but I'm pretty sure when you're propagating in perlite, it's really great because the perlite soaks up the water and like holds it in. but there's also air between the perlite, so the roots are getting both water and air, which is super great and helpful when trying to create a healthy propagation. So I think so far, I would say the best roots are from perlite so far, given we've still got 2 more to check, but these roots are so far my favorites. So next up we have the one in Pawn. It's got some okay leaves. This new leaf isn't huge, but it's not tiny either. You can see some little root in there. So let's pull it out and see what's up. So these roots are not at all what I expected. I expected them to be more like the perlite roots, but they are quite a bit smaller, which is a surprise to me. I don't really know what to say. I thought this one would do quite well because it's got fertilizer in it as well. Like, I don't know, I'm not very impressed. I don't know if I would propagate in Pawn again. I don't really think this is that great. Lastly, we have the one in LECA. This one does have some roots that you can see there. Let's pull it out and see what's up. These are some pretty happy roots. I mean, these LECA balls are probably stuck on there, so I'm not gonna pull them off. But these roots, I'd say these are comparable to the water roots, which does make sense because in LECA, the plant is basically in water, but with clay balls. I'm surprised. I haven't really used LECA on its own as a propagation medium before. So this was the original leaf, and then this one is the new leaf. As you can see, it is quite large in size. So I'd say that this cutting is very happy. Though I think I would be nervous to put this now into soil. I think I'd rather put it into some sort of semi-hydro, so either keep it in LECA permanently and like start using nutrient water, or maybe do something like Pawn instead. I think it would like that a lot better. I don't trust water roots in soil. It's too much of a shock and it freaks me out. I'm very pleasantly surprised about this one. I was not expecting that. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this experiment, but I think it's very interesting to see the different way the roots grow in the different mediums. In the end, I think there's a couple ones that like pull out ahead a little bit. For leaf size, I think soil was really good. The leaf, like the second leaf, is so much bigger than any of the others, which is great. Like, I think if you want like an established plant, that makes sense, but I think it does grow a bit slower than a lot of the other methods, especially the watery ones. You've kind of got to put a little bit more effort into it. You can't just like set and forget like you can with some water propagations. So I think soil propagation is very good. I'm surprised by that. I wasn't expecting that. When it comes to root growth, I think I'm most impressed by perlite. I think those roots grew the best. Also, that one had the biggest third leaf. So I think I'm very impressed with perlite, and perlite is definitely one of my favorite ways to propagate. I think it just makes sense. It saved my tie from root rot. What else can you ask for? So I think perlite is still one of my favorites. I was very underwhelmed with Pawn. I thought I was gonna do a lot better for propagation, but the roots were the smallest and it's not got a third leaf, so don't use it for propagation. Maybe it's not for that. But yeah, that was my little propagation experiment. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below. Comment what your favorite propagation method is. Tell me, I wanna know. Also subscribe for more, and if you didn't know I've got a Patreon, check it out if you want. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!